My husband chose his boss over our marriage. I didn't understand it at first. Not really. Not until I was standing in our kitchen at 11 at night, holding his phone in my hand, staring at a message that changed everything. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I lost my marriage to a woman who wasn't even trying to hide it anymore, and how I found the strength to walk away instead of begging him to stay. I met David when I was 26. He was ambitious back then, hungry for something bigger than the small apartment we shared, and I loved that about him. I loved watching him chase promotions, watching him come home exhausted but proud. We built a life together, a modest house, 2 dogs, Sunday mornings with coffee on the porch. For a long time, it was good. For a long time, I believed we were the kind of couple who made it. Everything shifted 3 years ago when David got promoted to regional manager. That's when he started working under Melissa. At first, her name was just background noise. Someone he mentioned in passing, someone whose approval mattered to him professionally. I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? He talked about co-workers all the time, but slowly her name started showing up more. Melissa said this. Melissa thinks that. Melissa wants the team to stay late for the quarterly review. And slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice, David started missing dinners. Started missing our anniversary dinner reservation because Melissa needed him for something urgent. Started sleeping with his phone face down on the nightstand, something he'd never done before. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that 14 years of marriage doesn't just unravel because a man respects his boss. But some part of me, the part that notices when someone stops looking at you the way they used to, knew something had changed long before I had proof. The proof came on a Tuesday. David was in the shower, and his phone lit up on the counter with a message preview I wasn't supposed to see. It was from Melissa. It said she couldn't stop thinking about the weekend, and that she wished things were different. I stood there in my own kitchen, in the house we bought together, feeling the floor tilt beneath me. I didn't confront him that night. I needed to understand first. I needed to know how deep this went, because some betrayals are moments, and some betrayals are years in the making, and I needed to know which one I was standing inside of. Over the next 2 weeks, I did something I never thought I'd do. I paid attention. I noticed the late nights that didn't match his calendar. I noticed the new cologne. I noticed how he'd angle his laptop away from me when I walked into the room. And when I finally had enough, messages, receipts from restaurants I'd never been to, a hotel confirmation for a conference that didn't exist, I sat him down and I asked him directly, "Is there something going on between you and Melissa?" He didn't deny it. That's the part that still sits heavy in my chest. He didn't fight for us, didn't insist I was wrong, didn't even really apologize. He just looked at me and said that things had gotten complicated, that Melissa understood parts of his life that I didn't, that he felt seen at work in a way he hadn't felt at home in years. As if 14 years of partnership, of raising 2 dogs together, of holding his hand through his father's funeral, could be erased by a woman who signed his timesheets. I want to tell you I screamed. I want to tell you I threw something. That I made a scene worthy of the betrayal I felt. But I didn't. I sat very still, and I felt something inside me go quiet and cold and certain. I told him I wanted a divorce. He looked almost relieved. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life. There were nights I sat in my living room and questioned everything. Was I not enough? Was I too comfortable, too familiar, too much of the life he'd already built, instead of the life he still wanted to chase? But somewhere in the middle of that grief, a different feeling started to grow. Clarity. Because the truth is, David didn't lose respect for me because I did something wrong. He lost sight of what he had because he stopped choosing it. And that was never something I could have controlled or fixed, no matter how hard I tried. I filed the papers myself. I sat across from a lawyer who barely knew me and explained in the calmest voice I could manage that I wanted out cleanly and quickly. David didn't fight the divorce. If anything, he seemed to want it over just as fast as I did, eager to move forward into whatever life he imagined with Melissa waiting on the other side of it. It's been 8 months now. David and Melissa are together, openly, the way people are when they've stopped hiding. I see it sometimes, on social media, in the careful way mutual friends avoid mentioning her name around me. And I won't pretend it doesn't sting, but I've also rebuilt something I didn't expect to find this fast. A version of myself that isn't waiting for someone else's attention to feel whole. I moved into a smaller place. I adopted a 3rd dog, because apparently grief makes me impulsive in the gentlest way possible. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. And slowly, I stopped checking my phone to see if he'd texted. Stopped rehearsing conversations I'd never get to have. Stopped waiting for an apology that was never coming. If you're watching this and you're standing where I once stood, noticing the late nights, the hidden phone, the distance that grows a little wider every week, trust that feeling. Trust the part of you that already knows the truth before you're ready to say it out loud. You deserve a love that doesn't require competing with someone else's approval. You deserve to be chosen, fully, without hesitation. I didn't lose my marriage because I wasn't enough. I lost it because David stopped fighting for what we had. And in the end, walking away wasn't the tragedy I thought it would be. It was the beginning of finally choosing myself.